Hi, I'm Cary Harrison with Los Angeles Public Radio KPFK. This is Reality Check Live. You can follow us anytime, realitychecklive.org. You'll also get our social media stuff there. Standing next to me is Jonathan Lockman. He's a former advisor to Hillary Clinton. Here we are with a different president in the White House, and boy, did it go the way anyone expected?
No, it did not, and I think it's been disastrous, to say the least. I think the first 100 days of this presidency have been a train wreck, and if you look just from the very first week, with the rollout of the Muslim ban, which was clearly unconstitutional, and precipitated this wave of protesters across the country at airports, thousands that came to LAX and other airports around the country, that set the tone for the next 99 days, which were pretty horrific in themselves.
I think we need to be careful. We don't have religious tests in this country.
Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham slamming the move as a self-inflicted wound in the fight against terrorism. Trump firing back on Twitter, accusing the two of always looking to start World War III.
Hopefully we'll get him back on track. But, I mean, what was so great about Trump is he was one of the very few presidential candidates saying he would put America first and wouldn't be starting these pointless wars.
My name is Anomaly. I think oil and money have been ruling the world for a long time, so I'm willing to give them a shot to really make things right, as opposed to people pretending like, oh, oil and money doesn't run the world, we're good people, and then oil money's running the world. You know, oil is what's running in Syria, and that's what these wars are over, and that's what's running it. I think that we need to create a solution past oil. We're never going to be able to fight the oil companies and the government to win. We need to create it so oil is irrelevant. We need to start buying products that aren't oil. You know, whether it's electric vehicles, you know, stuff that doesn't involve. So I truly believe we get what we buy. Even in America, we have bad food because we keep eating it. If we stop eating bad food, they'll stop selling it to us.
Los Angeles is known for more than just making movies. It's now the political capital of Earth as well, at least during Politicon, where people have gathered. This American flag is just a small representation of the volume and the spectrum of political appetites all gathered in one place. If you could augur the future with Donald Trump, what do you see spectacularly down the road?
If I could augur the future, I'd be in Las Vegas now and not Pasadena. But I think the thing with Donald Trump, if you're just stepping back and trying to think about this analytically, you know, what works politically, what doesn't work, more than has been the case, I think, with any other president, we don't know. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I say that because so many of the rules we thought were ironclad rules of American politics, Donald Trump violated and won anyway last year. And so I look at all of the sort of statistics and data and all the numbers we have right now. Normally they would tell me something pretty specific about where this is all going, but the fact that he was able to win last year while breaking and violating so many rules makes me wonder, hey, maybe they don't apply as much as we thought they did, or at all.
It doesn't seem like it's really all about him. I mean, we know this. Narcissism is hardly a word passed, you know, casually here, but it really is about him, like pulling in everything that isn't nailed down, just like stealing it with his cabal.
Well, I think Donald Trump has offered sort of an implicit deal, a tacit deal to all of America, to all of American culture, and is build everything around me, and there will be something in it for all of us. And I think that's a dangerous thing. I think I cannot think of, certainly, you know, politicians and culture. There's been some overlap before. We've had politicians go in late night shows, Joe. But we now have more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. I feel that culture, popular culture, media culture, is built around everything this president says, everything he tweets. And I do wonder, one of the things I wonder about that is, does that create a new type of polarization that is much deeper, much wider, and much more pervasive than anything we've seen? And if that's the case, then I don't know exactly what we could say about the future, because we've never been in this situation before.
Well, that's grim but true.
Maybe it is.
Or will be revealed.
I write about it, but I love politics, which is why I'm here, why we're both here, so.
Exactly. Politics being our favorite sport.
Yeah.
And you have been the moderator, so you've actually been moderate. You could be immoderate and sitting next to Ann Coulter and have her say these extraordinarily incendiary and untrue remarks. You shackled yourself, your emotions, quite incredibly. What was that experience like for you?
You know, I wanted to be emotionally flat, Switzerland, you know, so that I was seen as, a fair dealer, because that would elevate the conversation. And I'm like, they're not here for me. I don't want to seem like it's Anna and Touré against Anne, And, by the way, Anna knows more about all the stuff than I do. So she does not need me to help her or to pile on. I mean, you know where I come from. I'm MSNBC. So, I agree with Anna on pretty much everything and disagree with Anne about everything. But you don't need me injecting when Anna can do it by herself quite well. So I'm like, let me just emotionally not, because the room was so tense. There were people from both sides. They were both on the edge of their seat, cheering and booing, and I needed to be seen as fair. And so that was my goal in every moment.
And just to reset, in case you haven't seen this extraordinary moment, you had Ann Coulter, who needs zero introduction, exactly as you said, saying things about African Americans and really framing entire groups of mammals that pay taxes and fall in love in this country as being absolutely substandard, and you have to sit and take it and be fair. This is one of the hardest things you will ever do, but that is politics.
It is. If I was on the cycle and at that moment and somebody comes on and says something crazy and I think no one is going to refute that. So this non-fact that is prejudicial, that will damage people, will just sit in the air and none of us will refute it. Then I might have felt like, okay, I have to come out of my objective host station and say, okay, no, that is wrong. And the objective truth is that is not the case. But when you had such a competent force of nature on the left, and then Anne, who's a force of nature in her own way, on the right, you didn't need me. And, I was happy to lay back as much as possible and let the ladies speak, because they came for them. They did not come for me. I was just happy to be, on their shoulders and, with a big audience. At times I wondered, am I speaking too little? But, I look at a lot of folks on television who bounce the ball a lot, right? They ask really long questions. And I think quite often really short questions can be really, really valuable.
And I'm going to violate exactly what he just said and reintroduce, we're talking to Touré. He has been very happily moderating and taking a lot of, interesting impacts here while keeping it sane and actually drawing the best out of these people. An example, Roger Stone, which is, what a great hero to Donald Trump and his folks. And do you get the sense that he actually believes this stuff?
This is one of the core questions that you see going around in political circles. It's generally discussed away from the front line. How can they be so naive and not understand the real way the world works? But they believe that we believe what we are saying. But we're like, do they really believe
It's shocking because we have these frontal lobes that actually connect. We have dendrites and synapses. We actually don't think out of our brain stem. We're neocortical. It's exciting. So we have this ability, as you and I do, to evaluate. And they don't. Roger Stone, you have the inside track on really the future of America in so many ways. Talking with Mr. Trump, what do you think America will look like in a year from now?
Well, the only thing predictable about Donald Trump is he's entirely unpredictable. I think that if he will pass a tax reform package, immigration reform, trade reform, America could have a bright, prosperous future. If, however, he is undermined by the establishment Republicans, some of whom he's appointed, and he doesn't fulfill that agenda, he'll be another failed president. I think he has the potential to be a truly transformational and successful historic president, but he's up against a two-party duopoly of elites who have run the country into the ground. And let's face it, they like things just the way they are. So the greatest fight is yet to come.
So is the swamp draining or is it filling up? People are getting confused at this point.
Well, I think maybe we've got a restart in the swamp draining that begins with the ejection of Reince Priebus, a man who has, I think, undermined much of what the president's trying to do.
It's Monday, the 13th day of February, 2017. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Donald Trump has been looking to replace Reince Priebus. And I called Roger Stone about this last week from several of my other sources, some of them right, obviously, inside the White House. And he said, you know, I've just been learning about this too, but we don't want to put this out because Trump doesn't want leaks on leaks. But I called Roger this morning and I said, you know what? I got to do my job.
Now, what about all this international business? We have the emoluments clause and all these issues going on with maybe Russia, maybe not Russia. What if it's actually true? What are we supposed to do?
Well, I don't answer hypothetical questions. I would just say there's not an iota of evidence of Russian collusion. Yeah, Boris and Ivan might have talked about how they were going to affect the Russian, but there's no evidence that they really did it.
Cooperation from the Trump campaign is leaving the House Intelligence Committee with little left to investigate when it comes to collusion in the 2016 election. Former campaign advisor to the Trump campaign, Roger Stone, testified before the committee last month.
I expressed my view that I am aware of no evidence whatsoever of collusion by the Russian state or anyone in the Trump campaign, at least not effectively. And there's no evidence of collusion between the Russian state and the Trump campaign.
But the intelligence agencies who are working for us seem to think so really quite heartily.
The same ones who said there were weapons of mass destruction that were held by Saddam Hussein, who said that there was no torture going on in Abu Ghraib prison. The intelligence agencies lie constantly. That's what spies do. They lie.
One detail left out of the hearing, the name of Stone's intermediary with WikiLeaks during the election, something WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says is a non-story.
He doesn't have anything to worry about because there is no back channel.
Allegations of Stone's collusion stem from a tweet he sent out in August of 2016, a threat to John Podesta, a month and a half before WikiLeaks released its first set of emails from the chair of Hillary Clinton's campaign.
What about the LGBT community that feels, well, let's just say torpedoed right now, particularly the trans community?
Very disappointed in that tweet by the president. I think the president really made positive strides at the convention. I totally disagree with him on that. I'm very, very disappointed in him on that narrow issue. We know we have a president who will stand up for gay Americans against Islamic terrorism, something the Democrats don't seem to want to talk about, but I found that comment to be disappointing.
So if we have ISIS in the room, then he's going to change his opinion. It almost takes something like that.
Look, this is somebody who has been a longtime supporter of gay marriage before it was the law of the land. Somebody who I think gave voice to this at the convention. I don't understand where that transgendered comment came from, particularly without any discussion with the military leaders. I disagree with the president from time to time, and that's an issue in which I disagree with him.
It's a rare and wonderful moment when public radio gets to celebrate voices that actually go deep. We're talking smart people at the highest functioning level, places that the mainstream media don't seem to want to invite to every cocktail party. Though you've been on MSNBC, you're on Sirius XM, you're a household word now, Cenk Uygur. The Young Turks were standing in front of their banner because their banners are ubiquitous, whatever that word means. And Cenk, you've done so much to help the progressive movement, to put into words that thing that we all feel, and it's only just begun for you, hasn't it?
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And we've known each other a long time, and we've been fighting together a long time. In some ways we've done a lot, and, about over 6 billion views online now.
That's it?
Getting the message out. But I think we've yet begun to fight. I think that between now and 2020 is the real battle, and the establishment is not going to go quietly into that night. And we got to get through them to get to the Republicans, and so there's a lot of battling left to do. We believe that you should fight for progressive principles, and it's amazing that you have to convince the Democratic Party of that, and they are not yet convinced.
Well, I'm hoping that they will grow a pair right in front of us, and maybe even we can give them a date by which to do that and make that fulfillment. But I know you've asked them. Has it helped?
No, asking politely does not help. And so every once in a while they'll put out that talking point, and Obama did this too. If you want change, you should push us. Then whenever we push them, they go, whoa, what are you pushing me for, right? And so the reality is, don't wait for change, make it happen. And so one way that you make that happen is primaries. So if you've got a corporate Democrat in your district, well, that's unacceptable. If you're in a deeply blue district, you should have a deeply blue representative. And if you're in a deeply blue state, you should have a deeply progressive senator. Why does the right wing get to have extreme right wingers and we can't have reasonable progressives? No, they say, no, that's not practical. But wait a minute, that argument is terrible, because you said that it was in an effort to win more elections so that we would get more progressive priorities. But now you've lost all the elections. You lost the White House to a guy who was polling at 37% on the day of the election. You lost the House of Representatives, you lost the Senate, you lost the Supreme Court, you lost 69 out of 99 state legislatures. It is a miserable rate of failure. And so if we want to be practical, we've got to get those guys out of the way so we could run against Republicans in an effective and practical way so we can win.
Would not get out and vote for free college for all, right? Or for campaign finance, or all the things that he's talking about. That's how we transform the country. So the focus is on pieces of legislation. So encouraging the 140 million people who would not otherwise vote.
I have an idea, because with public radio, we can develop short segments, right? As they're funded. Or we can do stuff like this. So if public radio makes sense to you.
And where would it air?
It would air in New York, LA, Washington, D.C., Houston, all the top 5 markets.
It's Harrison here with Reality Check Live. You can, of course, join us anytime, anywhere at realitychecklive.org or on a variety of FMs and AMs all around America, including college stations. Yep, we've put together the very first network of college stations. You say to yourself, well, I thought there already was one. There isn't until now. A place for young voices, for smart people, for women, for people of color, for LGBTQ+, LMNOP, the whole soup, cat, and pizzas. We are all here, and we're here for you. realitychecklive.org. Make sure you join us, and make sure you participate, because it's not just us, it's you. You are what powers us.